Hello, my name is Drew Simmons with the 2S Provision House. 9 years ago, my dad and my uncle had this podcast called Urban Cowboys. Today, I am reviving the podcast. Today, the Urban Cowboys are back in the saddle. Our family, the Simmons, owns a ranch store called the Provision House. We have been cattle ranchers for over 23 years, and we sell our beef through the store. Today, I brought the owner, my granddad, to talk about ranching, cattle, and beef. Tell me your story. Why, and how did you found the Provision House and the 2S Ranch?
Drew, number one, good to be back on the podcast. I used to be on it in Urban Cowboys with your dad, and it's good to be back in the saddle. Great question in regards to the ranching. How did we get into this? We started buying property out in Palo Pinto County back in 2002, 2003. And first piece of land we bought was 80 acres right on FM4. And this is really good fertile land. It's sandy loam uh, in the cross timbers ecosystem. Uh, we bought it and we started putting steer on it uh, immediately. And we just started restocking it. Then we added more property and more property to now under management, we have about 10,000 acres.
That is awesome. How has ranching benefited your life? I know you're in extreme health today. I know you turned 71. How has all of this benefited and changed your life?
Hey, great question. I like to think that I like to eat food with zero ingredients. I like to eat real food. I like to eat ancestral food. And so once we got into the cattle business, the next deal was, well, let's just slaughter our own cattle and eat our own beef. If we're sitting here raising cattle ancestrally like it should be done, why wouldn't we want to eat the beef from the cattle? So for a while, what we did is we did conventional, and I would take the cattle to auction and we'd sell it. And then a couple of years into it, we thought, well, let's just start slaughtering our own cattle. And we used to slaughter up in Munster, Texas. The fishers would process for us, and then we started selling the beef direct. And Drew, it just kind of exploded. People would call us. People would, hey Bart, I want some of the 2SB. And from there, it's just built and built and built.
That is amazing. Why is eating healthy and eating beef so necessary for health?
Great question. Metabolically, our bodies were built and created to eat food with not a lot of ingredients. And we really need the protein and fat that you get from ruminant meats. And if you start looking at a lot of the chronic diseases out there today, non alcoholic fatty liver disease, obesity, a lot of these chronic diseases are actually either triggered are caused by Americans relying so much on ultra processed foods. And our whole mission is we want to make the food as clean as we can. And so our goal is to have our beef all raised regeneratively, grass fed, grass finished, to where we know it's got a great omega 3, omega 6 ratio. It's got a really good conjugated linoleic acid and a high stearic acid. And as a result, we're doing this, and our meat is about as healthy and as clean as it can be.
So tell me a little bit about regenerative ranching, versus like conventional ranching. Which one is better and how do they work?
Great question. So, congenitive ranching really depends on a lot of inputs, whether it's fertilizer, a lot of herbicides and pesticides. And this is the conventional ranching model that Americans have used for the last 50 years plus. Regenerative ranching says, hey, let's improve the soils. Let's use less inputs. Let's actually use the cow as the mechanism for the inputs. So what we do is we mob graze our cattle, and then Drew, what happens is the cow patties, we use the cow patties to actually fertilize and enrich the soil. And mob grazing, then we can control what the cattle are eating. And cattle ancestrally eat 80% grass, 10% forbs, and 10% browse. So our goal is to get our cattle to use that same ancestral ratio. And that's what we're doing regeneratively.
And then, so since you've talked a lot about the ranch, where is the ranch, and why is this area where the ranch is so beneficial to the land and the soil and all that?
Yeah. So we're in the western cross timber ecosystem of Texas. We're in Palo Pinto County. We own and control 2,000 acres in that ecosystem. We also own and control 8,500 acres out near Big Bend. Now, that's a different ecosystem. It's more of a high desert. Uh, but both of these are two really great ecosystems that have a lot of natural grasses. Both of our ranches are in the great grassland ecosystem of North America. And the great grassland ecosystem goes from Canada all the way to Mexico. And historically, you'd have all the bison come from Canada in big, big herds and they'd go all the way down to Mexico, then all the way back up. And so what we're doing is we're trying to lean into that. We're trying to again reestablish the great grassland ecosystem on our ranches, and we're doing that regeneratively.
That is awesome. Where is the store, and why isn't it at the ranch, the
Yeah,
provision house?
great question. So we actually, for a while, sold some of our beef out at the ranch. But the ranch is the main ranch, our main headquarters, is located just outside Lone Camp, Texas. Lone Camp, Texas has a population of 78 people. There's not a lot of demand for beef out there. Plus, it's all other cattle ranchers. So it's hard for me to sell my ribeyes to my ranching buddy right beside me. So we realized that we really needed to locate our ranch store, the provision house, closer to a big metropolitan area. So what we decided to do is our first store was actually in Richardson, Texas. So we actually owned and operated a store in Richardson, Texas called the Provision House. We did it for 5 years, then we moved over to Farmers Branch. And we've been here for 5 years. So we've been doing this for 10 years. We've also done a lot of farmers markets. We hauled our meat to different farmers markets and sold it there. But our best way to sell it and control the temperature is for customers to come find us at the Provision House in Farmers Branch.
All right, thank you. Let's take a quick break. Our sponsor here today is Knee High Glass. Knee High Glass is a commercial glazing and install company that does storefront jobs, structural walls, custom handles, painted glass, and reception glass. The company's experience has allowed success in the Dallas and Austin areas. If you want to contact them, please email asimmons@hardeman.com or call 972-672-6551. Again, that's asimmons@hardeman.com or call 972-672-6551. All right, back to this. How do you work the cattle out at the ranch?
Great question. And before I do that, I know maybe in the background people can hear all the noise. Our store is real busy today. That we have a lot of moms and families coming in. I'm over here looking. We've got three people working the counters. There's babies, kids, customers are all over there at the store getting provisions and possibly raw milk. So your question is, how do we work the cattle at the ranch? So what we do is we actually have a couple of ranch managers that help us. Uh, I took a class at TCU. I actually took a ranch management class at TCU, so I kind of know the science of it. But our ranch hands and foremen know the art of it. And your Uncle Trent has really gotten good at it. You guys, you come out there, your dad Andrew comes out there, Uncle Grant comes out there. So all of us go out there and we work the cattle. We have fixed pens. And so what we do is we work our cattle once or twice a year. And we usually are working the yearlings. So the young calves, after they've calved and they get 100 pounds, we like to work our cattle and that's what we do.
So, could you go into grass fed, grass finished? What does that truly mean to the cow's diet? And then, could you tell us when in their diet, when it is time to process them?
Yeah. So, Drew, cattle are on their mama's milk, and then as they start weaning, they start eating grass. And for a while, I was grass fed, grass finished, certified by the USDA. We were certified for about 3 years. Then we elected not to do that. It just became such a paperwork burden that we thought our customer base knows us. They've been out to the ranch. We don't need to do that. So grass fed, grass finished is really an elevated organic labeling in the cattle business. So what we do is we guarantee to our customers that our cattle are out on pasture, out on grasses from the time that they are weaned all the way to when they are processed. We never put them in a feedlot. Never. And a feedlot is really what is the cattle industry name for a CAFO. A CAFO is a central animal feeding operation. And that's a CAFO feedlot. That's what you do. You put 10,000 cattle together, you squeeze them in real tight, and they eat only in troughs. That's part of the American model, but that's not what we want to do. Ours are grass fed, grass finished the whole time, which means they're basically on pasture the whole time, Drew.
That is awesome. What cattle breed do you like to use? And remind us, what are the cattle breeds that there are, and which one is the best for beef?
Well, another great question. So, what you really want to do is you look at your land and your ecosystem. There's a lot of different breeds of cattle. And what you want to do is you want to fit the breed of cattle to your particular ecosystem. So, when you go further north in America, you'll have a lot of the English breeds. When you're getting down into Texas and you go further south, you get a lot of the breeds that came from India. Okay. So what we run right now is we do run a Black Angus, Corriente, Beefmaster, uh, Baldy type crosses. And what I try to do on there is I get all these breeds, I interbreed them, and I'm trying to get the hybrid vigor best for my ranch. And so that's what we're doing right now. But we're always looking at it. How can we increase the body score from our overall herd? And that's what Trent does. We're out there looking. Yeah, we need to sell these 10 cows. We need to bring in some Corriente. Uh, Looking at which breed of cattle is best for our ecosystem.
That is awesome. And then do you have horses on the land, and how are they used, and how do they also benefit the ranch?
Drew, you're asking so many good questions, and I really appreciate that because I
Thank
like to
you.
educate our customers and the public. So, yeah, we do have horses, and horses are another type of ruminant. It's really good to mix your ruminants. We like to use our horses whether, versus mechanical means when we work our cattle. And what it does is you're really any mechanical means, when I say mechanical, trucks, mules, ATV, any of these deals, I've got to put diesel in them. I've got to, I've got to maintain them. Our goal at the 2S Ranch is to try to work our cattle the old way, the way ranching used to be. And that's all more regenerative. And the reason being is the cows and the horses all defecate and they're urinating. So that's soaking into the soils. Also, too, uh, it just they eat different grasses. So in essence, when I mix these different ruminants, I get that uh, ability to eat all the forbs and all the browse. And in fact, we're looking at introducing goats with the cows. We're probably going to do that the next couple of years. We're investigating that right now. We think it could actually benefit the ranches.
Interesting. Do cattle, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but do they only eat grass, or how does that work? Ties more into the grass fed, grass finished
Yeah.
topic.
Well, that gets down to monoculture. And so what part of the reason we didn't like conventional ranching a lot of times will spray a herbicide and kill all the weeds. Cattle ancestrally eat 80%, their diet is 80% grass, 10% forbs, and 10% browse. And the follow-up question is, Granddaddy, what's a forb? What's a browse? So the grasses, of course, are big blue, little blue, Sado's Brahma, switching to Indian. Those are the five big bunch grasses of Texas in the big ecosystem. Also, too, we do have some hybrid grasses. So Johnson grass, uh, Sudan, we can have other grasses out there. But a forb is a weed. So when I say 10% weeds or forbs, we'll see our cattle go over there and they may eat a knotweed or they may eat a broomweed. They're not as nutritionally beneficial, but they'll eat them. So they need that. And so it's just like, Drew, have you ever had a dog?
Yes.
Okay. And your dog is inside and you open the door and the dog runs out and starts eating a plant. And you're going, wait a second, why is my dog eating a plant? Our cows do the same thing. Our cows will go if our one of our cows has a respiratory problem, it will go find the right forb to eat. It will self-medicate just like your dog will. So if I kill all the forbs and I only let my cows have just grass, it can't find the right forb to eat to self-medicate. And then eventually, then I can have a respiratory problem get worse and worse. Then I've got to call my big animal vet to come administer antibiotic. I prefer not to do that. The other component is so I said 80% grass, 10% forbs. The last one is 10% browse. Ancestrally, cows will eat like a twig, a stick, maybe an acorn, and that's all browse. Even bark off a tree. We'll see a cow actually go eat a little bark off the tree. So they will do that. That's their ancestral diet. 80% grass, 10 forbs, and 10 browse. And that's what we want them to eat. And that makes a better beef product for our customers.
And then besides beef, I know we have other products at our store. What was the motivation for bringing other products in, and what would those be, and how do they also benefit healthy diets and our customers?
Great question. So originally we only sold beef in our store. And we ended up getting a pretty good following. We had customers coming in and buying 10 pounds of ground meat or, hey, Bart, you got any fillets? Sure, I've got some tenderloin fillets. Eventually they came and said, hey, man, do you got any bacon? No, I'm not a hog guy. I'm a cattle rancher, but I know a great hog guy. So we reached out to Scott at KBRK. And Scott is probably one of the best hog guys in North Texas. Next thing is I had somebody go, man, I love your beef and I want to buy your beef, but I'm pressed on time and I need to go buy some chicken. Do you have any chicken here? No, I don't have any chicken, but I know a great chicken ranch farmer. I call Bonnie at Windy Meadows. That's when we have chicken here. So I've got other provisions. Now I'm real particular about these other provisions. I do a lot of study, a lot of research. I go out to these places. I want to know what they're feeding their livestock. I want to know that they are the best livestock for my family, my 13 grandkids, you included, as well as for my customers. And then eventually somebody came and said, hey, man, you got any eggs? No, we're not an egg guy, but I know somebody that is. So I called Sid Miller at Cedar Ridge. So that's how we got into these other provisions. We carry a pretty good line of other provisions. We're all the time trying to enhance them. I've got some bison, I've got some fish, I've got some lamb from Jordan Ramsey. We've got, like I mentioned, pork. We've got the eggs. We've got the chicken. We have a lot of other provisions, and of course, all the beef is from ours. I do carry a little bit of Wagyu beef from a good friend of mine, Ricky Guidry. So anyway, yeah, come by the store. I'd like to show everybody the our lineup of really good, healthy provisions.
And then this is my last question. I know you're big into the title of our store. It's the Provision House. What was the motivation for the name, and why is it called that?
Hey, Drew, you're just asking all the great questions. So back when we were looking at this, two things came to mind. Number one, back in the 1800s, when you would do a cattle drive, uh, these cattle drives sometimes would be anywhere from a couple of 100 miles to 1,000 miles. They'd go from Texas all the way up to Montana. Well, they would provision the cattle drives from usually the provision house on the big ranch. There would be a provision house, and they would get all their provisions from the provision house. And then I couple that with the fact that in the Bible and God's word, God likes to provision us. He likes to provision all of his people. And so when we were looking at this, we really like the combination of those. We like the combination of saying, hey, we're going to outfit consumers with great provisions. And biblically, as well as ancestrally, cattle drive, kind of fusing the old cowboy with God's word. And that's how we came up with the provision house.
Thank you so much, Granddaddy. Thank you for coming on the podcast. We are back in the saddle. I know old Urban Cowboys fans out here. We're back in the saddle. We're back. Please come visit the provision house, and we'll see you next time.